Hello! Welcome to Heavy D Storytelling. I'm Heavy D. I'm going to tell you a story. Hi. So, we are reading the book of Judges. And hello! Welcome to Heavy D Storytelling. I'm Heavy D, and I'm going to tell you a story. So, we are reading the book of Judges and Ben-Hur. So, we're going to start with Judges. I apologize that we are so late today. Kimberly went to church and had a great time learning about creation. And so now we are going to read about the Judges. And as we left off, the bad dude got his temple got hammered with a tent stake. Yay. All right, so I just want to remind everybody that these are really evil people, okay? It's not like this was somebody that was just a normal, Joe Schmo or whatever, but the evil people in the Old Testament that God told the Israelites to annihilate, there's two reasons. First of all, number one, they were evil people, okay? They did things like child sacrifices and that kind of thing, and that is not good, and God does not honor that. Remember, the child sacrifice that Abraham had was interrupted by the Lord and given a substitute in a ram when he went up on the Mount of Moriah. And we read that book also. So these people don't get interrupted or they didn't get interrupted when they were doing their child sacrifices. And so it was bad news. So anyway, the second reason is because God didn't want his people to be corrupted by these evil people. So there's two reasons right there. All right. So here is chapter 5. This is the English Standard Version. Then Deborah and Barak, the son of, I'm trying really hard not to call him Barak. Sorry. Then sang Deborah and Barak, the son of Abinoam, on that day, that the leaders took the lead in Israel, that the people offered themselves willingly. Bless the Lord. Hear, O kings, give ear, O princes. To the Lord I will sing, I will make melody to the Lord, the God of Israel. Lord, when you went out from Seir, when you marched from the region of Edom, the earth trembled and the heavens dropped. Yes, cloud dropped water. The mountains quaked before the Lord, even Sinai before the Lord, the God of Israel. In the days of Shemgar, son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were abandoned, and travelers kept to the byways. The villagers ceased in Israel. They ceased to be until I arose. I, Deborah, arose as a mother in Israel. When new gods were chosen, then war was in the gates. Was shield or spear to be seen among 40,000 in Israel? My heart goes out to the commanders of Israel, who offered themselves willingly among the people. Bless the Lord. Tell of it, you who ride on white donkeys, you who sit on rich carpets, and you who walk by the way to the sound of musicians at the watering places. There they repeat the righteous triumphs of the Lord, the righteous triumphs of his villagers in Israel. Then down to the gates marched the people of the Lord. Awake, awake, Deborah, awake, awake, break out in a song. Arise, Barak, lead away your captives, O son of Abinoam. Then down marched the remnant of the noble, the people of the Lord marched down for me against the mighty. From Ephraim, their root, they marched down into the valley, following you, Benjamin, with your kinsmen. From Machir marched down the commanders, And from Zebulun, those who bear the lieutenant's staff. The princes of Issachar came with Deborah, and Issachar faithful to Barak. Into the valley they rushed at his heels. Among the clans of Reuben there were great searchings of heart. Why did you sit still among the sheepfolds to hear the whistling for the flocks? Among the clans of Reuben there were great searchings of heart. Gilead stayed beyond the Jordan, and Dan, why did he stay with his ships? Asher sat still at the coast of the sea, staying by his lands. Zebulun is a people who risk their lives to death. Naphtali, too, on the heights of the field. The kings came, they fought. Then fought the kings of Canaan. At Tanakh, by the waters of Megiddo, they got no spoils of silver. From heaven the stars fought. From their courses they fought against Sisera. The torrent Kishon swept them away, the ancient torrent, the torrent Kishon. March on, my soul, with might. Then loud beat the horses' hoofs with the galloping of his steeds. Curse Meroz, says the angel of the Lord, curse its inhabitants thoroughly, because they did not come to the help of the Lord, to the help of the Lord against the mighty. Most blessed of women be Jael, the wife of Eber the Kenite. Of tent-dwelling women most blessed, he asked for water, and she gave him milk. She brought him curds in a noble's bowl. She sent her hand to the tent peg, and her right hand to the workman's mallet. She struck Sisera, she crushed his head, she shattered and pierced his temple. Between her feet he sank, he fell, he lay still. Between her feet he sank, he fell. Where he sank, there he fell, dead. Here's a tent stake, and here is a bona fide. Oh, this isn't the one. No. It's not the attitude adjuster. Okay, I'm in the middle of my Bible chapter, though. Out of the window she peered. The mother of Sisera wailed throughout the lattice. Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why tarry the hoofbeats of his chariots? Her wisest princesses answer. Indeed, she answers herself. Have they not found and divided the spoil, a womb or two for every man? Spoil of dyed materials for Sisera, spoil of dyed materials embroidered. 2 pieces of dyed work embroidered for the neck as spoil. So may all your enemies perish, O Lord, but your friends be like the sun as he rises in his might. And the land had rest for 40 years. I don't think that last sentence was part of the song, but that is a statement. The land had rest for 40 years. And that is the end of chapter 5. Tomorrow we will begin with the Midianites in chapter 6 and the call of a gentleman named Gideon. No, he didn't feel up to doing the intro. Do you want to say hi to Granny Bear, though? She's there.
Hi. Larry can do the intro. I'm not feeling too well today.
But he's okay. Alrighty, so I am going to drink some water. We're going to, oh, we have a usual aid. That's good. Howdy, hi, how are you? So, funny howdy story that I have to relate because we got howdy. So when I was in Germany, of course, I'm a howdy guy because, I'm from Texas, so, it is what it is. So anyway, I went to the gate guard, and of course, they were Germans, and I said, howdy. And he said, I am fine. How are you today? Anyway, I got a kick out of that because he had no idea. Anyway, all right, so tummy issue. All right, there was one other thing that I was going to say. Oh yes, I uploaded a ton of videos to YouTube today. So if you want to watch old videos, I recommend YouTube because I have them organized into playlists. There are playlists on Facebook, however, they are very difficult for me, being a not very brilliant computer whiz, um, to put the playlist into. That's really distracting me. Can we close the door? um, to listening to me talking 30 seconds later. You? Okay, good. So, okay, so I uploaded a bunch of videos to YouTube today. It was the end of the bronze bow. I'm going to, sometime later this week, I'm going to upload, I've got all of the dragon song and I've got all of the dragon singer videos. There's only 2 on YouTube right now, but I will upload the rest of those during this week. And I will start uploading the Ben-Hur videos by the end of this week. So just so you're tracking on all of that, that is what my plans are. We actually went onto YouTube and I realized that it was Mara number 1. Mara number 1 video had 222 views, which just mind blown. I had no idea that that many people would click on me, but so that's kind of what spurred me on for that, because maybe some people are actually watching it on YouTube. I've gotten a couple of likes also. So more than a couple, probably like, in the 10s or the 20s or something like that. All right, so chapter 9. Kimmy, are we doing the synopsis? Okay. There's not a lot to tell. These chapters, there's a lot of description going on here, but not a lot of action. So go ahead and tell us what's going on.
So they have like this entire marketplace scene of like 2 chapters or so.
Where was it? The Joppa Gate. The Joppa Gate.
And then it cuts to Mary and Joseph, where there was this person who
I know he knew all about Joseph and why he had gotten married.
No, not exactly.
And he thought that Mary and him were like brother and sister because they were so close in age.
No, he thought that Joseph was Mary's dad.
But who is he really?
He's
her husband, but in the story, what did it say that he was?
Well,
it said that before they were married, he was actually the uncle because he was. Okay, that's a bit awkward, but let me explain that. Because in the Jewish culture, and if you read the Torah, it actually the Torah actually commands that if a woman is without a father or a husband, then it's up to the relatives to make sure that there's a bunch of stuff on that. I don't know. Yeah, Mara was cool. You're right. I don't know all the details in that because I don't. Yeah, okay, so speaking of Mara, wait until I read my story that I'm writing. And there's a character in it named Mara who is also really cool. But I'm not going to say anything else other than that. Yeah, I'll read it on the channel, but I have to finish the book first. Well, it doesn't have to be published. I have to finish the book first. Can you get that off of the banister? I would hate for that to. No, the drink. And the cat, but the drink is what I. Really? All right, fine. Okay, all right. So, what? Yeah. All right. Okay, so this is chapter 9, The Cave at Bethlehem. To understand thoroughly what happened to the Nazarene at the Khan, the reader must be reminded that Eastern inns were different from the inns of the Western world. They were called khans from the Persian and, in simplest form, were fenced enclosures without house or shed, often without a gate or an entrance. Their sites were chosen with reference to shade, defense, or water. Such were the inns that sheltered Jacob when he went to seek a wife in Padan Aram, which we just read about that in the book of Genesis. Their like their like may be seen at this day in the stopping places of the desert. On the other hand, some of them, especially those on the roads between great cities like Jerusalem and Alexandria, were princely establishments, monuments to the piety of the kings who built them. In ordinary, however, they were no more than the house or possession of a sheik, in which, as in headquarters, he swayed his tribe. Lodging the traveler was the least of their uses. They were markets, factories, forts, places of assemblage and residence for merchants and artisans, quite as much as places of shelter for belated and wandering wayfarers. Within their walls, all the year round, occurred the multiplied daily transactions of a town. The singular management of these hostelries was the feature likely to strike a Western mind with most force. There was no host or hostess, no clerk, cook, or kitchen. A steward at the gate was all the assertion of government or proprietorship anywhere visible. Strangers arriving stayed at will without rendering account. A consequence of the system was that whoever came had to bring his food and culinary outfit with him, or buy them of dealers in the Khan. The same rule had held good as to his bed and bedding and forage for his beasts. Water, rest, shelter, and protection were all he looked for from the proprietor, and they were gratuities. The peace of synagogues was sometimes broken by brawling disputants, but that of the Khans, never. The houses and all their appurtenances were sacred. A well was not more so. The Khan at Bethlehem, before which Joseph and his wife stopped, was a good specimen of its class, being neither very primitive nor very princely. The building was purely oriental, that is to say, a quadrangular block of rough stones, 1 story high, flat roofed, externally unbroken by a window, and with but one principal entrance, a doorway, which was also a gateway on the eastern side or front. The road ran by the door so near that the chalk dust half covered the lintel. A fence of flat rocks, beginning at the northeastern corner of the pile, extended many yards down the slope to the point from whence it swept westwardly to a limestone bluff, making what was in the highest degree essential to a respectable khan, a safe enclosure for animals. In a village like Bethlehem, as there was but one sheik, there could not well be more than one khan, and though born in the place, the Nazarene, from long residence elsewhere, had no claim to hospitality in the town. Moreover, the enumeration for which he was coming might be the work of weeks or months. Roman deputies in the provinces were proverbially slow, and to impose himself and wife for a period so uncertain upon acquaintances or relations was out of the question. So, before he drew nigh the great house, while he was yet climbing the slope in the steep places, toiling to hasten the donkey, the fear that he might not find accommodations in the khan became a painful anxiety, for he found the road thronged with men and boys who, with great ado, were taking their cattle, horses, and camels to and from the valley, some to water, some to the neighboring caves. And when he was come close by, excuse me, his alarm was not allayed by the discovery of a crowd investing the door of the establishment, while the enclosure adjoining, broad as it was, seemed already full. "We cannot reach the door," Joseph said in his slow way. "Let us stop here and learn, if we can, what has happened." The wife, without answering, quietly drew the wimple aside. The look of fatigue at first upon her face changed to one of interest. She found herself at the edge of an assemblage that could not be other than a matter of curiosity to her, although it was common enough at the cons of any on any of the highways which the great caravans were accustomed to traverse. There were men on foot, running hither and thither, talking shrilly and in all the tongues of Syria, men on horseback, screaming to men on camels, men struggling doubtfully with fractious cows and frightened sheep, men peddling bread and wine, and among the mass a herd of boys apparently in chase of a herd of dogs. Everybody and everything seemed to be in motion at the same time. Possibly the fair spectator was too weary to be long attracted by the scene. In a little while she sighed and settled down on the pillion, and as if in search of peace and rest, or in expectation of someone, looked off to the south and up to the tall cliffs of the Mount of Paradise, then faintly reddening under the setting sun. While she was thus looking, a man pushed his way out of the press and stopped close by the donkey, faced about with an angry brow. The Nazarene spoke to him. "As I am what I take you to be, good friend, a son of Judah, may I ask the cause of this multitude?" The stranger turned fiercely, but seeing the solemn countenance of Joseph, so in keeping with his deep, slow voice and speech, he raised his hand in half salutation and replied, "Peace be to you, Rabbi. I am a son of Judah and will answer you. I dwell in Bethdagon, which you know is in what used to be the land of the tribe of Dan. On that road to Joppa from Modin," said Joseph. "On the road to Joppa from Modin," said Joseph. "Ah, you have been in Beth-dagon," the man said, his face softening yet more. "What wanderers we of Judah are! I have been away from the ridge, old Ephrath, as our father Jacob called it, for many years, when the proclamation went abroad requiring all Hebrews to be numbered at the cities of their birth. That is my business here, Rabbi." Joseph's face remained stolid as a mask, while he remarked, "I have come for that also, I and my wife." The stranger glanced at Mary and kept silence. She was looking up at the bald top of Gador. The sun touched her upturned face and filled the violet depths of her eyes, and upon her parted lips trembled an aspiration which could not have been to a mortal. For the moment all the humanity of her beauty seemed refined away. She was, as we fancy they are who sit close by the gate in the transfiguring light of heaven. The Bethdagonite saw the original of what, centuries after, came as a vision of genius to Sanzio the divine, and left him immortal. Of what was I speaking? Ah, I remember. I was about to say that when I heard of the order to come here, I was angry. Then I thought of the old hill, and the town, and the valley falling away into the depths of Cedron, of the vines and orchards and fields of grain unfailing since the days of Boaz and Ruth, of the familiar mountains, Gador here, Gibeah here, yonder, Mar Elias there, which way, when I was a boy, were the walls of the world to me, and I forgave the tyrants and came. I and Rachel, my wife, and Deborah and Michael, our roses of Sharon." The man paused again, looking abruptly at Mary, who was now looking at him and listening. Then he said, "Rabbi, will not your wife go to mine? You may see her yonder with the children, under the leaning olive tree at the bend of the road. I tell you," he turned to Joseph and spoke positively, "I tell you the khan is full. It is useless to ask at the gate." Joseph's will was slow, like his mind. He hesitated, but at length replied, "The offer is kind. Whether there be room for us or not in the house, we will go see your people. Let me speak to the gatekeeper myself. I will return quickly." And putting the leading strap in the stranger's hand, he pushed into the stirring crowd. The keeper sat on the great cedar block outside the gate. Against the wall behind him leaned a javelin. A dog squatted on the block by his side. "The peace of Jehovah be with you," said Joseph, at last confronting the keeper. "What you give may you find again, and when found, be it many times multiplied to you and yours," returned the watchman gravely, though without moving. "I am a Bethlehemite," said Joseph, in his most deliberate way. "Is there not room for—" "There is not. You may have heard of me, Joseph of Nazareth. This is the house of my fathers. I am of the line of David." Though these words held the Nazarene's hope. If they failed him, further appeal was idle, even that of the offer of many shekels. To be a son of Judah was one thing, in the tribal opinion a great thing. To be of the house of David was yet another. On the tongue of a Hebrew there could be no higher boast. 1,000 years and more had passed since the boyish shepherd became the successor of Saul and founded a royal family. Wars, calamities, other kings, and the countless obscuring processes of time had, as respects fortune, lowered his descendants to the common Jewish level. The bread they ate came to them of toil never more humble, yet they had the benefit of history sacredly kept, of which genealogy was the first chapter and the last. They could not become unknown, while wherever they went in Israel, acquaintance drew after it a respect amounting to reverence. If this were so in Jerusalem and elsewhere, certainly one of the sacred line might reasonably rely upon it at the door of the Khan of Bethlehem. To say, as Joseph said, "This is the house of my fathers," was to say the truth most simply and literally, for it was the very house Ruth ruled as the wife of Boaz, the very house in which Jesse and his 10 sons, David the youngest, were born, the very house in which Samuel came seeking a king and found him, the very house which David gave to the son of Barzillai, the friendly Gileadite, the very house in which Jeremiah by prayer rescued the remnant of his race flying before the Babylonians. The appeal was not without effect. The keeper of the gate slid down from the cedar block and, laying his hand upon his beard, said respectfully, "Rabbi, I cannot tell you when this door first opened in welcome to the traveler, but it was more than 1,000 years ago, and in all that time there is no known instance of a good man turned away, save when there was no room to rest him in. If it has been so with a stranger, just cause must the steward have just cause must the steward have who says no to one of the line of David. Wherefore I salute you again, and if you care to go with me, I will show you that there is not a lodging place left in the house, neither in the chambers, nor in the lewens, nor in the court, not even on the roof. May I ask when you came?" "But now," the keeper smiled, "the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself. Is not that the law, Rabbi?" Joseph was silent. "If it be the law, can I say to one a long time come, 'Go thy way, another is here to take thy place'?" Yet Joseph held his peace. "And if I said so, to whom would the place belong? See the many that have been waiting, some of them since noon." "Who are all these people?" asked Joseph, turning to the crowd, "and why are they here at this time?" "That which doubtless brought you, Rabbi, the decree of the Caesar." The keeper threw an initiative sorry, the keeper threw an interrogative glance at the Nazarene, then continued, brought most of those who have lodging in the house, and yesterday the caravan passing from Damascus to Arabia and Lower Egypt arrived. These you see here belong to it, men and camels. Still Joseph persisted. The court is large, he said. Yes, but it is heaped with cargoes, with bales of silk and pockets of spices and goods of every kind. Then, for a moment, the face of the applicant lost its stolidity, its the lusterless, staring eyes dropped. With some warmth, he next said, I do not care for myself, but I have with me my wife, and the night is cold, colder on the heights than in Nazareth. She cannot live in the open air. Is there not room in the town? These people, the keeper waved his hand to the throng before the door, have all besought the town, and they report its accommodations all engaged. Again Joseph studied the ground, saying half to himself, She is so young. If I make her bed up on the hill, the frosts will kill her. Then he spoke to the keeper again. It may be you knew her parents, Joachim and Anna, once of Bethlehem, and, like myself, of the line of David. Yes, I knew them. They were good people. That was in my youth. This time the keeper's eyes sought the ground in thought. Suddenly he raised his head. If I cannot make room for you, he said, I cannot turn you away, Rabbi. I will do the best I can for you. How many are of your party? Joseph reflected, then replied, My wife and a friend with his family from Bethdagon, a little town over by Joppa. In all, 6 of us. Very well. You shall not lie out on the ridge. Bring your people and hasten, for when the sun goes down behind the mountain, you know the night comes quickly, and it is nearly there now. I give you the blessing of the houseless traveler. That of the sojourner will follow. So saying, the Nazarene went back joyfully to Mary and the Bethdagonite. In a little while, the latter brought up his family, the women mounted on donkeys, the wife was matronly, the daughters were images of what she must have been in youth, and as they drew nigh the door, the keeper knew them to be of the humble class. This is she of whom I spoke, said the Nazarene, and these are our friends. Mary's veil was raised. Blue eyes and hair of gold, muttered the steward to himself, seeing but her. So looked the young king when he went to sing before Saul. Then he took the leading strap from Joseph and said to Mary, Peace to you, O daughter of David. Then to the others, Peace to you all. Then to Joseph, Rabbi, follow me. The party were conducted into a wide passage paved with stone, from which they entered the court of the khan. To a stranger the scene would have been curious, but they noticed the lewens that yawned darkly upon them from all sides, and the court itself, only to remark how crowded they were. By a lane reserved in the stowage of the cargoes, and thence by a passage similar to the one at the entrance, they emerged into the enclosure adjoining the house, and came upon camels, horses, and donkeys, tethered and dozing in close groups. Among them were the keepers, men of many lands, and they too slept or kept silent watch. They went down the slope of the crowded yard slowly, for the dull carriers of the women had wills of their own. At length they turned into a path running toward the gray limestone bluff overlooking the Khan on the west. We are going to the cave, said Joseph laconically. The guide lingered till Mary came to his side. The cave to which we are going, he said to her, must have been a resort of your ancestor David. From the field below us and from the well down in the valley, he used to drive his flocks to it for safety. And afterward, when he was king, he came back to the old house here for rest and health, bringing great trains of animals. The mangers yet remain as they were in his day. Better a bed upon the floor where he has slept than one in the courtyard or out by the roadside. Ah, here is the house before the cave. This speech must not have taken must not be taken as an apology for the lodging offered. There was no need of apology. The place was the best then at disposal. The guests were simple folks, by habits of life easily satisfied. To the Jew of that period, moreover, abode in caverns was a familiar idea, made so by everyday occurrences, and by what he heard of Sabbaths in the synagogues. How much of Jewish history, how many of the most exciting incidents in that history had transpired in caves. Yet further, these people were Jews of Bethlehem, with whom the idea was especially commonplace, for their locality abounded with caves, great and small, some of which had been dwelling places from the time of the Emim and Horites. No more was there offense to them in the fact that the cavern to which they were being taken had been, or was, a stable. They were the descendants of a race of herdsmen whose flocks habitually shared both their habitations and wanderings. In keeping with a custom derived from Abraham, the tent of the Bedouin yet shelters his horses and children alike. So they obeyed the keeper cheerfully, and gazed at the house, feeling only a natural curiosity. Everything associated with the history of David was interesting to them. The building was low and narrow, projecting but a little from the rock to which it was joined at the rear, and wholly without a window. In its blank front there was a door swung on enormous hinges and thickly daubed with ochreous clay. While the wooden bolt of the lock was being pushed back, the women were assisted from the pillions. Upon the opening of the door, the keeper called out, "Come in." The guests entered and stared about them. It became apparent immediately that the house was but a mask or covering for the mouth of a natural cave or grotto, probably 40 feet long, 9 or 10 high, and 12 or 15 in width. The light streamed through the doorway, over the uneven floor, falling upon piles of grain and fodder and earthenware and household property occupying the center of the chamber. Along the sides were mangers low enough for sheep and built of stone laid in cement. There were no stalls or partitions of any kind. Dust and chaff yellowed the floor, filled all the crevices and hollows, and thickened the spider webs which dropped from the ceiling like bits of dirty linen. Otherwise, the place was cleanly and to appearance as comfortable as any of the arched lewens of the khan proper. In fact, a cave was the model and first suggestion of the lewen. "Come in," said the guide. "These piles upon the floor are for travelers like yourself. Take what of them you need." Then he spoke to Mary. "Can you rest here?" "The place is sanctified," she answered. "I leave you then. Peace be with all of you." When he was gone, they busied themselves making the cave habitable. I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 10 because it's 2 pages. It's called The Light in the Sky. And then we'll stop there. At a certain hour in the evening, the shouting and stir of the people in and about the khan ceased. At the same time, every Israelite, if not already upon his feet, arose, solemnized his face, looked toward Jerusalem, crossed his hands upon his breast, and prayed, for it was the sacred 9th hour, when sacrifices were offered in the temple on Moriah, and God was supposed to be there. When the hands of the worshippers fell down, the commotion broke forth again. Everybody hastened to bread or to make his pallet. A little later, the lights were put out, and there was silence, and then sleep. About midnight, someone on the roof cried out, What light is that in the sky? Awake, brethren, awake and see." The people, half asleep, sat up and looked. Then they became wide awake, though wonderstruck, and the stir spread to the court below and into the lewens. Soon the entire tenantry of the house and court and enclosure were out gazing at the sky. And this is what they saw: a ray of light beginning at a height immeasurably beyond the nearest stars and dropping obliquely to the earth. At its top, a diminishing point; at its base, many furlongs in width, its sides blending softly with the darkness of the night, its core a roseate electrical splendor. The apparition seemed to rest on the nearest mountain southeast of the town, making a pale corona along the line of the summit. The Khan was touched luminously, so that those upon the roof saw each other's face, all filled with wonder. Steadily, through minutes, the ray lingered, and then the wonder changed to awe and fear. The timid trembled, the boldest spoke in whispers. "Saw you ever the like?" asked one. "It seems just over the mountain there. I cannot tell what it is, nor did I ever see anything like it," was the answer. "Can it be that a star has burst and fallen?" asked another, his tongue faltering. "When a star falls, its light goes out." "I have it," cried one confidently. "The shepherds have seen a lion and made fires to keep him from the flocks." The men next to the speaker drew a breath of relief and said, "Yes, that is it. The flocks were grazing in the valley over there today." A bystander dispelled the comfort. "No, no. Though all the wood in all the valleys of Judah were brought together in one pile and fired, the blaze would not throw a light so strong and so high." After that there was silence on the housetop, broken but once again while the mystery continued. "Brethren," exclaimed a Jew of venerable mien, "what we see is the ladder our father Jacob saw in his dream. Blessed be the Lord God of our fathers." And that's the end of chapter 10. Chapter 11 is called Christ is Born, and we will read that tomorrow. I hope you're enjoying Ben-Hur, who hasn't made an appearance yet in the book, but rest assured he will. So, okay. So I need to explain something to Kimberly. This is his first name. This is his second name. Ben-Hur. Okay, so do you understand? Her with a U, not a E. Hey, I didn't make it up, Kim, okay? All right. So this book, it gets better and better and better and better, and I just absolutely love the end. Okay, so, but without giving it away, I'm going to bid you adieu for the evening, and I hope that you have a good night, and we hope to see you again tomorrow, and hope you enjoyed the reading. Good night. Bye.